Really? I hope so. Now, so a little bit of juice. I actually got an email back from Gigi Doe today, agreeing that he would come on and talk about casting and whatnot. So super stoked for that, actually. So for those who don't know you, man, describe yourself a little bit. Like, who is the man behind KickedTripod? Are you? Let's fix that real quick. Better not be. Thanks, guys. I don't look at chat. I can't look at chat. Go ahead and talk again. Nope. Nothing. Why is this not working right? I just had it, too. You heard me check it.
Test, check. Yo.
Go now.
Check. Hey.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Look, we fly by night around here, boys. Maybe I should keep chat up for that purpose.
There we go. You know, just you gotta. It's good to have him.
I just can't read it. That's the problem.
It says quiet, but we can hear him.
I'm boosting. Look, we're a fly by night operation around here. The sad part is that this will all stay in.
I love it. I honestly, I've done that, and I largely do it. One of my podcasting mentors is like, if you're over editing your podcast, you're like not giving people like the real kind of like the content feel for it, and they lose context for
exactly.
it. So
you do.
I'm all about it, man.
You lose the juice in it, right? Like it's a whole thing.
And
figuring it out.
It's way less time. It takes way less time when you don't have to edit it.
Exactly. So. That's so for me. Like I have I mean I wrote you right before. I have kids. I have a wife. I have a family. I have a full-time job. So editing time is slim to none anymore. So I gotta I'll trim the fat a little bit here and there, but like a lot of times I'm like, look, let's just let it flow. Let's just let it go.
So when I first decided I wanted to do my first podcast, I modeled it after a few of my favorite podcasters, and part of what I wanted to do is I asked them, how do you record? And they're like, we do it all live. It records in different tracks. We do it all live. We don't do really any post editing unless something like crazy happens. People disconnect, drop out, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I literally took a week off of work, sick, to try and figure it out. It was the most frustrating weekend I think I can remember.
So I think I did pretty much the same thing. I took a week off of streaming just so I could learn, because I've never done editing of anything before, right? I ran a podcast before, and once again, I would just cut the trim off the sides and then just full send it, right? And move on with my life. And I enjoyed doing it, but like I also wanted to get into making more YouTube content as well. So I literally had to take a week off of making content to learn how to make content, which is like a bizarre thought process in my head, but I don't know. I guess it sort of worked. I learned something anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing is the people who are gonna do well are the ones who sit down to take the time to learn it, right? So
Exactly.
good on you, man.
Let's full send it back. Explain about the man behind KickedTripod.
Sure. So yeah, I have been podcasting and streaming for about 5 years. Started as a very part-time hobby, turned into a full-time thing, and then it eventually turned into a kind of like a tertiary career where I realized I didn't like full-time content creation as much as I thought I would, but there was a lot of really great opportunities for me in the marketing community, social media side of things, and those are things that I really like, and believe it or not, people can be passionate about. And so I've been doing that for the past 2.5 years with a couple of really great companies. So yeah.
No, that's super awesome. So you saying that reminds me also of do you happen to listen to Devin Nash at all or watch any of his streams?
I don't. So I don't get to watch or listen to as many podcasts and streams as I used to. There's just not enough hours anymore.
No, that's fair. His stream is basically just all marketing, right? And it's marketing from esports angle as well as from both. He's CMO or chief marketing officer of a Twitch agency, right? So they have streamers and they're under their umbrella and he helps market them and figure out how they're gonna do this stuff. But that's all of his streams. That's all his streams are about, which is super cool. But yeah, cool. So what was your first podcast then?
So I started, believe it or not, it was I think 2014 or 2015. It was at the very end of, I think it was 2014, and I had been listening to Blizzard podcast for a long time. The Instance by Scott Johnson, Convert to Raid by Pat Crane. Those were kind of like my two gold standards, and I loved them every time. I moved to Colorado by myself, and I didn't make a lot of friends right away, and so like I had a lot of like lunches eating Burger King in the Burger King gas station combo or whatever in my car, just eating lunches. And so I listened to them every day, and I'm like, you know what, next year I want to start my own podcast. And so I was going to do that. And then early in 2015, there's I don't think they're called, I think they're still called BlizzPro, but they have like a Yeti arcade thing now. But BlizzPro used to be and still is a Blizzard fan site, and they made a lot of really cool content. And they had a Hearthstone show there called Hearthpro, and the main host left. And they basically opened up for tryouts for a new co-host.
Really?
And yeah. And so rather than start my own, I tried out and met Kevin and JR, who are like two incredible human beings. And I don't get to stay as in touch with them as I like wish, but like two of like my favorite people in the world. And I put together a little like 7-minute audition tape, I guess is what it would be called.
Yeah.
And they ended up picking me, and they're like, cool. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to seem like an amateur, and that's why I took my famous week off work sick.
Yeah.
So my first show was the Hearth Pro show, which we rebranded to Well Met Podcast, and it is still going to this day. They just hit, I think it was episode 200 or 300. They asked me back on to just kind of do a catch up a couple months ago, and
you did it, right?
Yeah. So, of course,
okay,
yeah,
good.
Of course I did. I don't play a lot of Hearthstone anymore, which is why I left the show.
Yeah.
But that was my first show, and it was cool. We grew it from a couple hundred listeners every week to, I think, anywhere between 4,000 and 8,000 at its peak. So it was pretty great. And we did a live show, and we would have 40 to 50 viewers live, and more than a couple hundred views on YouTube. So it was really cool that I was very lucky. I know I'm an outlier in the sense that my first piece of like published content went beyond like a few dozen mark, right? Which is kind of like it's the first hump. When you start streaming, right? You're streaming for 0, 1, 2, 3 people.
Yep.
And then it grows and grows, and eventually gets there. You change platforms, you change podcasts, you add new content, you try new things, and each time it just kind of builds on itself. And so I was very lucky though, where you kind of pass that really like small stage where I think a lot of people burn out really quickly.
Oh yeah. No, that's definitely so. It's funny you mentioned all these podcasts as your inspirations. So like, you took me back to literally 2014, where like Scott Johnson and Pat Crane from Convert to Raid were literally like, I listened to them every podcast every time they came on. I still follow Coltrane and talk to him from time to time.
Yeah, Colt's great. I love Colt.
Amazing. But yeah, that was like it's weird how small the world is, right? Especially in this kind of sphere where you can like literally pinpoint certain pockets of the internet where people just get the inspiration of wanting to do something, which is like super cool. So yeah, that just took me back to like my ripe old age of 24 and when playing super into WoW and super into everything Blizzard really, and I've kind of fallen out of all of that now minus Overwatch, and chat knows how I feel about Overwatch, so
probably don't feel that differently. Yeah, it's
which is funny
something.
Because you host an Overwatch League podcast that I listen to now religiously.
I do. Yeah. I have very smart co-hosts. Yes.
So what are your thoughts on Overwatch then, real quick, before we hop over to that real fast?
The best game that I hate to play.
Elaborate. I gotta know more now.
I mean, I will say this. Overwatch is the most frustrating game to lose out of any game I've ever played in my life. And I think that's one of like the core things that I don't like about it. I played really heavily and I hit low masters, and then I played really casually with my wife, and we like hung around you know, high bronze, low silver, low gold. And no matter where you are on the ladder, it constantly feels like you're just trying not to lose.
Yeah.
And so while I love the game, I love the concept, and I really like watching Overwatch, I think Overwatch as an esport is actually a little bit better than Overwatch as a game from like I'm going to sit down and play like competitive. I think like the arcade modes are brilliant, and, you know, whatever, mystery heroes and all that stuff is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of, it's exhausting.
Oh.
And I don't know how the pros do it.
So my whole and I actually talked about this last episode. I had a streamer who only really plays Overwatch. That's like all he does for like 8 to 9 hours a day, almost 5 days a week. And I had to ask him. I said, "Dude, how do you do it?" Like, I would start losing my mind. Just based off of me playing the same game. I can't do that for some reason. It's just not built into the cerebral cortex over here. But B, it's the most, like you said, it's the most frustrating game to lose because, like, in my opinion, it's so team dependent that it's hard for one person just to straight flat out carry anybody, right? So, like, if you have a Garbo healer and a Garbo tank on your team and they're just out there memeing, like, you pretty much have lost that game.
Well, like, there's also the concept is like everybody is so convinced about how good everybody else on their team is just based off of like very like specific sets of data, right? And a very specific scope. And like, it's real easy for me to be like, that tank sucks because they weren't putting their shield up while I was shooting. And then also to go like, well, should I have been differently there? And then like, whenever you go down that road, you're kind of just like, well, you know, in the end, we probably need to be best friends in order for that play to go correct. And you can't in like a matchmaking type environment like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's just, it's the rewards don't really justify the pay, the cost of losing over and over. I remember when I leveled up a account to level 25 with my wife, and then we went into placements and we went 0 for 10.
Really?
0 for 10 for placements. Like, you shouldn't, there's no functional matchmaking system in the world that will let you, at that point, you're getting thrown against bots. You know, you should be getting thrown against bots. If you're like at 1 and 8, you shouldn't be playing real human beings. You should just be like, you know what, man, you need one.
Yep.
You just need one. You just need to play. And it's like, there's no way these MMRs are right.
No.
And a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that, you know, my wife is brand new to PC shooters, so she's like, you know, probably bronze, silver-ish range. And I probably have played enough to still kind of be like high plat, low diamond if I was like, coming back and play it. And so they're probably like, oh, we're going to just match them at mid gold, mid to high gold. And then I become the guy who needs to carry. And I'm not a carry. So
No. I wish, dude, weird flex with the low diamond. Calm down. I still can't like consistently stay in plat. So
have I mentioned that I'm low diamond?
Man.
Have I mentioned it yet?
You're gonna make me play Overwatch again.
Don't do it.
Just so I can get back up to something.
You won't make me proud, I'll tell you that.
They get me every time too. They get me. I see these new skins and I'm like, oh yeah, let's go play Overwatch again.
I'll win 9 games.
Yeah, and I can't
play 90 to win 9. Yeah,
exactly. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I forget why I hate this game. Anyway, besides the point, you host Tactical Crouch with the Overwatch League. Basic, like, I would consider it in the top tier of Overwatch League podcasts. That and Plat Chat. Those are the two that I listen to religiously.
Appreciate. We're basically the only two who still do.
So that's kind of so I found you after all of when Monty left and he kind of scorched earth Twitter, right? That's when I found you guys actually, because
Signal boosted our show that week. Yeah.
Oh, it was huge. Like, but I was like, I gotta listen to these guys because like, what's their take on this? Because like, I'm sitting at work by myself all day. I can't talk to anybody about it, so I need to hear other people talking about it.
Sure.
And so that's what drew me to you guys, and now I haven't left, unfortunately, or fortunately for you, I guess. I don't know.
Fortunately, my perspective is fortunately.
Of course, I would agree. It's. I mean, right now Overwatch League is in a fascinating time period, which we can talk about too. But like, how did that start? How did you guys start? How did you find your cohorts?
And Joe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, what made you guys want to start a podcast about Overwatch League?
Yeah, so this goes, I'm going to try not to make this story too long because
make it as long as I got all night.
It's only interesting to me. So
you'd be surprised.
After about 3/4 of the way through Well Met, myself and Kevin, we were invited into NJR. We were all invited into the closed friends and family beta of Overwatch. So we were in, not on the first day, but the second day that Overwatch was playable by anybody outside of the company.
Yeah.
And we loved it. And so the plan was, all right, well, let's do a podcast about it. And we knew, and the plan was to do that. And we even said it on Well Met, and one of the Hearthstone devs listened to the show and was like, hey, I can put you on with friends and family. Super cool about it. Yang Wu. And so we got in really early and we started a podcast called the Payload Podcast, which we did almost 100 episodes of.
Really?
Yeah. But it slowly devolved from, and Well Met kind of did this too. It slowly devolved away from strategy and more to like esports. That was just more interesting to us. But we had Kevin ended up getting a job at Blizzard. And so we brought somebody new in. We were with DJ Tyrant was there at the time. And there's just kind of a lot going on. And I ended up like, you know what? I love the esports side of things, but I'm not playing the game enough. I don't think I'm the best person for like let's just chill and talk about Overwatch podcast, because all I care about is, watching the esports part of it. Yeah. And so I phased out of that one as well. And again, this is all about like how your content builds a platform for your next piece of content, builds a platform for your next piece of content. And I came up with an idea called Overwatch League Daily. And I did 100 episodes of these over about 2.5-3 months.
Holy sh!
So it literally was 5 days a week. I would, this was back when Overwatch went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And I did shows Wednesday through Monday. No, it was something different. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I did a show Tuesday and Sunday. Tuesdays through Sundays. I would do like a preview show. The cool thing that I did with it was I brought on guests every single day that were like involved with Overwatch League. So you had, I had Doa on there, and Uber, and Hex, and Bren, and Sideshow, Yiska, and Volamel. And how I did it, because we couldn't always line up the schedule, I sent them questions ahead of time. I go, just record it on your phone. I can make it sound good on the back end, and I'll edit it to sound like we're doing a live interview. even though you're just answering my questions. And they're about 20 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And then I fully produce them, put video behind it and everything.
How did you real quick, how did you manage to get all of them to be like, yeah, sure, let's go?
I asked. A big part of it is I asked. Now, I'll be honest, like, it's very different when you go from like the broad streamer sphere, right? So take, the top 5% of streamers, maybe 10% of them will say yes to coming on like a small show because they have, big sponsors wanting to spend, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per hour to have them do something else. And so like, that's kind of an expensive thing for them. But everybody in the Overwatch League, for the most part, like they're relatively small. So I asked them, I only had 3 people say no. And they were all really cool about it.
Yeah.
And like I didn't get any non-answers. Huh. I had the track record behind me of like, I've made these successful shows. I also had a few people that were just like really like Sideshow and Bren were really gracious to say yes immediately back when they would apparently say yes to anything. I was like, hey, Sideshow and Bren are going to be on this show. Would you want to come on the show? It's only going to take 15 minutes of your time. I'm going to send you the questions and they're going to come to you on Wednesday night. I need them by the time you go to bed that night. Yeah. And I would stay up until 4 a.m. and edit. Ugh. It was the most unhealthy thing I've done. But it was really cool. It created like a really cool, I mean, it got, a couple thousand downloads every day and built my own platform. But I ran into Joe and Yiska through doing that, who were both just writing about Overwatch League at the time. And I love the way that they communicated. Yiska was super helpful to me in that he invited me into like a private Discord with a lot of Overwatch League insiders, which gave me more guests. And they also gave me a lot more feedback on the questions. And so that helped elevate my content. And jokingly, I had them on more and more reoccurring as it became harder and harder to schedule guests at certain times. And like, they were always like my fallbacks. Yeah. Because they could always do it. And they eventually, I really enjoyed talking with them so much. I'm like, hey, do you guys just want to do a show together? And they were both like, yeah. So we ended up rebranding Overwatch League Daily to Tactical Crouch. And I've been doing it on like the kind of weekly basis that's been going on now for 87 episodes.
Yep. I just listened I listened to Mondays yesterday. So wait, tomorrow's Wednesday, right? No, today's Wednesday. I got.
And they recorded the preview show today, but I wasn't there for that. So
gotcha.
It's just those two.
So you guys have like the fascinating dynamic that like you don't see in a lot of shows anymore. Like a lot of times it's everybody who's super knowledgeable about whatever the topic is, and everybody's just agreeing to agree, and then move on, right? You guys have this amazing dynamic, and one of the most recent ones, you had to basically say, look, we're not actually fighting here, we're just having a heated discussion.
Sure.
Which like, but that tension is like really good, right? Because like just the back and forth of the arguing, but the friendly debate.
Call it argument. Yeah, it's friendly arguing.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you play. Well, you don't play. You come across as the common man, if for lack of a better term. Like, to me, that like, how did that dynamic kind of just like, how did that come about? I guess because like I said, it's super fascinating just in a content sphere because you don't really see that too often in anything.
So it was something that I did my college internship with Pat Crane, from Convert to Rate.
Wait, you left that part out.
I know. I just sorry. I know. So I did my internship in college with Pat Crane, and I helped him write a book. I more edited it. Like he fashioned 98.9% of the content, but I gave input on a lot of the content and edited a lot of the content, and we had a lot of conversations around the content. And a big belief that I came into early on is that all content, but specifically through the scope of a podcast, comes down to chemistry, content, and quality in level of importance in that order. So chemistry, number one, the relationships with your co-host. Scott Johnson in the instance is a great example that Scott can talk about anything at this point, and people will continue to continue to tune in because they like Scott, they like his co-host, and they don't hate whatever he's talking about.
Yeah.
And then there's the content piece where it's like what we're actually talking about is, somehow novel in some way. It, kind of imparts some new knowledge that you maybe didn't have before, or it's funny, or it's strategic and gives you a new outlook on something, whatever that ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
And then the quality piece is it sounds good. It's something that I actually want to put headphones on and listen to. We all run into people we've all run into podcasts who are like maybe have great co-hosts, but they all have really microphones, and they don't like know how to balance all the audio, and they've got fans and dogs in the background and everything. It's just like, doesn't matter how fun they are to listen to and how good the content is, it's borderline it's borderline like difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
And so I learned very early on that chemistry piece was the most important.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gets people to really come in and kind of stay with the show.
Yep.
And so I also realized very early on that I am not the smartest person when it comes to like analyzing Overwatch. I'm okay at the game. I love watching the game. I think that I know enough about it to ask really good questions and facilitate good discussion, but I need people there who can actually go in at a level that the average person doesn't go into if we want to be a really contentious podcast and be, a force to be reckoned with or whatever. And so that was kind of a big piece of it. And so Yiska is German. So he's got like this very like dry, but really funny, like his analogies are hilarious. And both Yiska and Joe are hilarious.
Yep.
And one thing that I told Yiska and Joe both this is like, I feel like their solo content, they make each other's solo content better. So whenever they're doing content together, they just have a really interesting dynamic because they're friends.
Yep.
But they don't do a lot of that. And sometimes they just need a mediator, somebody who doesn't know as much to ask the questions that they're subconsciously answering to each other because they're so smart that they just assume that other people know it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can be the idiot. So that's what I basically think of myself as. I try not to be like a total idiot, like this guy doesn't even watch Overwatch. But for me, I try to very much represent kind of some almost not quite mediator, because it's not really about mediating, but it's more about deciphering what these guys are talking about or what they want to talk about or what they're trying to say and positioning it in a way to where people can understand it.
Yeah.
Even if they don't understand and analyze Overwatch, which is why there's so many competitive Overwatch podcasts, not necessarily Overwatch League, but just Overwatch in general that do so poorly. It's because they overanalyze and they don't create like enough of a accessible base. They don't bring any good content, or like the chemistry between the co-hosts just isn't very good.
No.
And so that's why, again, I told you it's going to be a long answer.
No, dude,
that's why I
love the long answers. Trust me.
That's why I brought those guys along, because I felt like between the three of us, we had kind of the every person. We had the kind of smart German kind of guy. And then you had like the kind of, and he's kind of harsh. And then you have Joe, who's, we always joke, he won't commit to anything, but he's really smart and probably the smartest out of all of us, but like won't say it. And he's kind of humble, but he's got really strong opinions if you really dig down. And
but he says them eloquently as well, which also like adds to that.
They're all excellent communicators.
Oh yeah.
As long as they have the right frame for what they want to communicate. And I like to think that that's where I help, but at the same time, I don't think that highly of myself to say that they couldn't bring in somebody else to do that and have just as successful as a podcast.
I would beg to differ on that one. You bring levity to everything. You bring like you were saying, you bring the interpretation of the distilling of just the barrage of facts and opinions and Pepega takes and
no Pepega takes on my podcast. They're all perfect takes.
Debatable, but we'll debatable. Let's just say that. But Yusuke's fascinating to me because I lived in Germany for 9 years, so it's also like a taste of like, because I kind of call Germany my home, even though I'm not like, I wasn't born there, but I lived there for probably most of my adult life. And so it brings me that just like little touch of je ne sais quoi that I miss of how the Germans speak. Yeah, exactly. It makes me really happy to listen to
them
talk.
Yiska would hate that you used French to describe German.
Fair, I know, but fair. But it's I don't know. It's also like, he's comforting to me for some reason. I don't know. It seems weird to say.
Oh, he's good. Yeah, Yiska is, again, like the fact that Yiska and Joe don't have jobs in Overwatch League in some respect, whether it's like Yiska should be a GM, Joe probably should be some sort of GM, strategic coach.
Yeah.
Content strategist, or they both should just be on the Overwatch League desk. The fact that neither of them are is one of the greatest travesties of our time.
Oh, I say we start pushing a movement for that. I mean, you'd probably lose some co-hosts, but like that'd be well deserved. They probably wouldn't leave you in the dust, though. I promise.
Doesn't matter, man. As long as they're succeeding, I'm happy.
So, no, for sure. So I wanted to talk about your preseason stuff, specifically your preseason content, and how you structure that out was also like a super interesting take, which is also why when Thorin and Monty were doing oversight, and they would have coaches and players on basically to talk about Overwatch League as well. That's what you guys are doing in the preseason, basically interviewing all of these head coaches or GMs or people behind the scenes of the organization to basically talk about how they were looking for the 2020 season. Like, I'm assuming now that you brought up the fact that Yusuke brought you into the Discord with all of the Overwatch League insiders, that was probably a bit easier to sort out, I would imagine. But like, how did that all where did that come from? Because that's like, those takes were super fascinating.
So, I mean, both Yiska and Volamel, and to a lesser extent myself, have connections on just about every team and the front office in Overwatch League at this point. We've just interviewed enough people listen to the show. Like, Dogman listens to the show. Like,
really?
He just listened. He popped into chat one day. He goes, this is effing awesome. And, subscribes and then listens. And then we're like, hey, you want to come on? And he's like, yeah. So some of them came like that. Some of them are, Yiska and Joe both do investigative reporting. And so they have rapport with these guys. And so they do most of the grunt work with bringing on any guests. We try to bring on guests because, it's really hard for anybody else to. And so whenever we can, we do. And so basically we just are like, while everybody's gearing up, let's do our best to get as many guests as we can because we won't be able to during the season. Yeah. And we don't want people to be sick of us by the time the season starts. And so a great way to do that is just bring on as many guests as you can.
No, it's a super smart play of doing it, especially like you said, when there's no games happening, there's no recaps to be done, you can speculate about team signings and all that, which, obviously happened as well. But also in the same token, right, you're getting the other hand that people don't really see in just a casual observer of Overwatch League, where you're getting that coaching perspective, you're getting that GM perspective, which is like super valuable to anybody who cares enough to seek the outside content of Overwatch League. Which, I mean, we'll get to this, but like, why is that base so small? But like, it's also another reason for bringing more people in when you're creating that content, right? It's like, oh wait, you're having the head coach of the Pepega team, the Boston Uprising, on. Let's go see what he has to say today. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was super super fascinating to listen to.
Well, it lends a ton of credibility to the shows, right? And like, even for like my own personal stuff, all it took was one guest saying yes for me then in the future to go. So a great example was for Hearthstone, for I think it was our 100th episode, we did a special Jeopardy episode, and we asked Disguised Toast to come on.
Oh, really?
And he said yes.
Oh, shit.
And like I said, all it takes is one person to say yes. And all of a sudden, now I can go be like, hey, do you want to come on the show? Disguised Toast was on a couple weeks ago. We'd love to have you on too. And then boom, they're like, well, yeah, I mean, if Toast is on, like, I'll do it. Yeah, exactly. So all it takes is like one good-hearted content creator to be like, yeah, I'll come on, to let you kind of get that going. And then so now it's kind of the point where if people have the time, they generally say yes. It's usually just a scheduling and time thing. Like, we're pretty good friends with like Dream and Harsha from the Outlaws, but they're just so busy. That's like they would come on every day if they could. They just can't, so they won't.
I mean, how many games did they play here so far this season?
I don't know. Yeah, they did like 4 or 5, right?
Yeah,
and then
something like
they had 3 or 4 weeks off.
Yeah,
and then I think they're back next week, and so.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
So the Overwatch League season this year has been. I don't have a beautiful mute or censor button like you do. It's been a shit show. Not to the partially I would say to the league's fault. We can discuss hero pools if you really want to, even though I feel like we talk about hero pools literally every show 1,000 times.
Don't make me do it.
Well, but like that's a piece of its own making. But like with this pandemic stuff too, right? Like you're just having. Now we're playing all of our games online, but then
online,
you have teams moving back to Seoul, so they can't play games when they're scheduled to play, and then you have New York, which I didn't hear about until I actually listened to you guys. They were sheltering in place and not playing anything, period, or something. So like,
yeah, they're just not set up to play remotely.
How is it like discussing all of it? Like you guys do a great job of doing it, but like I'm sure like. I don't know. I feel like it would be a struggle sometimes with just being like, what is happening right now?
So there's definitely a lot of things. Number one, it all comes from a place of like, we really are passionate about competitive Overwatch. And so like all of that stuff is at least interesting to us to a certain level.
Yeah.
There's definitely an exhausting part of it where it's like, oh, we don't want to talk about this again. We're talking about this again. There's also parts too where it's like we really like talking about something that maybe some users don't or listeners don't like us talking about. Like some people are like, you guys spend too much time on hero pools, and instead you should just like they're here to stay whether you like them or not. And we're just kind of like a big part of content. The content piece of your and chemistry piece of your content is that you are talking about A, what you want to talk about, and B, what's important. And they're not always completely mutually inclusive of each other. They're not almost always. It's like a Venn diagram.
Yeah.
There is definitely some stuff that are outside of the middle, but the middle is pretty big. And so for us, it's been crazy. I mean, even today, like we weren't going to do a preview show because we didn't have matches on Monday.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I have new training at my new job Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if they announce them, you guys can definitely do a preview show.
Yeah.
I just can't do it with you. And they just did one today, and it's probably better. So yeah, so it's you just kind of roll with the punches, and you just try to like do the best you can, and as soon as you get sick of it, you start weaning yourself off and moving on to the next thing.
We all know how Joe feels about hero pools. I have to do it to you, man. I'm sorry.
Poor Joe, man. Poor Joe, dude.
Every week the hero pools come back up again and again and again and again and again.
I get it though, because every time I think I'm taking the other side of it, like, but it's great for the viewer, because I think hero pools are really good for the viewer, the average viewer. They explain to me why it's not, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Back to it. Yeah.
Back to the casual status. But like, okay, so but as as somebody who doesn't sit here and self admits that his hyper analyzing of Overwatch is probably not up to Joe and Yuska, like, how do you feel about like the experience with hero pools so far? I have to ask because it's like the biggest thing that everybody's talking about in Overwatch. I mean, you hear it in Plat Chat too. There's just everybody's railing against hero pools right now.
I think I'm definitely on the less outraged side.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, if people don't tune in for Overwatch League, the esport dies.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how competitive it is or how perfect the format is, it dies. And there's a lot of different alternatives to hero pools that I would have liked to see more. But
Such
giving
as?
like I mean really simple, just make hero pools every 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Instead of every week. Just give teams a little extra time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. B, I think just aggressive balancing in general. You know, when Jeff Kaplan came out with the developer update, it was just like, hey, we're gonna do aggressive balancing toward the meta and hero pools.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have just stopped at aggressive balancing toward the meta.
Why'd you add the second part?
Just like, you know what? Week 2, May is still seeing 98% play.
Yep.
Let's not let's change May. And if you need to take her out of rotation for 2 weeks to do that, whatever. But I think it's still preferable to just like, all right, we're waiting May. And before the picks weren't even weighted at first, right?
Yeah.
So it used to just be 2 of the same amount of each hero, whether they were played 10% or whether they were played
98%.
100%. And they finally have weighted those. But still, it's like you still put it up to chance for like, there's a 30% chance that this ban could have no effect on the meta next week. And like, I don't think that that's healthy or great either.
Yeah.
Or there's a 30% chance that, you know, the San Francisco Shock are totally effed this week.
Yeah.
And they can't, doesn't matter how good they are. You know, you take Lucio away from him and you take May away from them, and you like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So it's I think that there's just a lot. I think a tournament structure works a little bit better for Overwatch League, especially this year. I would like to see, like, especially without, like, stages were nice stops and saying, like, let's stop and look at how powerful these teams are.
Yep.
Let's stop. And you don't have that either, so it feels a lot like a baseball season.
Yeah, where it's just continuous games over and over and over and over again throughout the season.
And I love baseball, but that's a big like knock against the baseball format.
Yeah.
Is there's 162 games.
Yeah. There's too many.
Just,
I don't know.
There's so a lot. There's a lot. Every single game and doesn't feel meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I really like hockey because I think hockey's like 82.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's enough there where you have a lot of data there, and it's not just about how you play, you know, over 16 weeks like the NFL.
Yeah.
It's, you know, 1 day a week for 16 weeks. Instead, it's, you know, over
how long is hockey season?
6 months. I mean, it's pretty long, right?
Yeah.
It starts in like August, September, and it goes until March.
Yeah, I think it's March.
So yeah, like it goes. I mean, it's a pretty long season, and they play, you know, at least 1 to 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's still a lot there, and you can still play that long game. And teams can still streak and go on hot streaks and cold streaks. But every game also doesn't feel just completely insignificant.
Yeah, exactly.
The fighting helps too.
Look, that's why half the people go to watch hockey. It's like people go see NASCAR, right? And they're just going for crashes. Like, who really wants to go watch a car go zoom?
It's true.
Zoom.
I can turn left.
Yeah, exactly. I do it every day.
It's so offensive to NASCAR fans. My uncle's a big NASCAR fan. He explained to me all the intricacies, and I'm like, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
I have a buddy at work who tried to do the same thing. I'm just like, yeah. He goes, do you want to go? I'm like, I'm going to just sit in my house and not go watch cars in the sun.
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
Sounds sweaty.
Dude, you're not. It's not even a lie. Especially down here in Atlanta, and during that season where it's like 100 degrees outside and 99% humidity, I can't do it. My body can't take it.
Yeah.
So, not only with podcasting, you're multifaceted. You Twitch stream as well. So like, how did you get started? How did you get started on the Twitch? Like, when did you say, you know what, I'm going to start Twitch streaming right now? And then like, what did you do to progress your content on that? Because like people, like I don't know, people. I have struggles with Twitch just based off its discoverability alone. Kind of being, kind of a pain sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But like, how did you end up taking that and then growing with that? Like, did you feed that in from the podcast stuff as well, or like, how did you manage to?
So I think, and most people will tell you right now, like anyone who's like, Harris Heller and Epos Vox, those guys who do a lot of like stream coaching, the free kind, not the kind that you pay $15 a month for nothing.
Yeah.
Jeez. But a lot of those guys will say like, it's really difficult to just be an organic streamer and be successful. It's looking for other platforms that, you constantly need to have this push and pull strategy to all your content. And I had stumbled upon this on accident. I didn't realize at the time how, and again, this was 5 years ago. So if you thought like streaming wasn't nearly as, what's it called when everybody's doing it?
Ubiquitous.
Saturated. Yeah, it wasn't nearly as saturated as it is today, but there was still, streamers who were hitting, multi-thousands of views or concurrent viewers at a time then, and there were, hundreds and thousands of people streaming. But podcasting, like right now, if you look at Overwatch, there's 20 podcasts.
Yeah.
If you look at Hearthstone, there's 15 to 20. Warcraft, there's 20. And there's kind of a law to all of them. So there's about 5 of them that are good.
I know
like
this law.
Objectively speaking, right? So like there's 5 of them that are good in the sense that they have enough of that chemistry, content, and quality that just about anybody who wants to and is looking for the content will tune in. There's about 5 to 10 of them that are meh. So if you really like World of Warcraft, you might tune in and listen to them. But if you don't, you're only going to listen to the big guys. And there's, 5 to 10 that are just, complete shit. And I say that like with love in the sense that it's, a dude sitting down at his computer, no real like vision for the content, no real like, what do I do for production value? What do I do to make this interesting? What do I do to like, and that's totally, it's like, it's a hobby and that's totally okay. We all like, I think of all the things that I do for fun that I don't want to do professionally. Playing video games is one of those things I learned. I don't want to stream. But it did help me pull a lot of people to my stream as the shows grew. And then I got really lucky that I was rated by Tim the Tatman.
What?
Yeah, one time. So I was just rated by, I had like, 10 to 15 viewers and I was streaming back when communities, you could just like type in Tatman Army. Yeah. And that's who he would host. And I got a host one time. Trevor May was in that stream and loved my production value. And then he went and listened to my podcast and really loved my podcast.
Yeah.
And then asked to do a podcast with me. And now Trevor and I are friends. Then he introduced me to Tim and PJ, and now like they're close. So it's like a lot of this, how do you position yourself for luck, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was the podcast pulled to make my stream just a little bit bigger. Again, like about the same size as like yours right now. You got 10, 15 viewers in here, and that's awesome.
Yep.
And then it got hosted and brought me, like, I still think to this day, like, a quarter of my viewers are from one Tim the Tatman raid, but none of them come back.
Yeah.
So like it was great for like 2 or 3 weeks. And everyone followed me, and I had 800 new followers that day, and it was so cool. And I had like 10 new subs or something, and like, oh, that never happens.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so like it was really cool, but even then it wasn't enough to like, there I am, I'm lucky, now I've made it.
Now I'm the next Tim the Tatman. Let's go.
Yeah. So yes, but yeah, the podcast ultimately pulled there, and I put a lot of time and effort into making the podcast look and sound good. And I put a lot of effort into making sure that the people around me are smarter and bring something to the show that I cannot.
No, I mean half of the battle, right, is picking, like you mentioned, is the chemistry, right? So that's honestly that's half the battle, and the rest comes with just doing it. You can learn production value to an extent, right? Like it's not like a natural. It's not a natural.
It's controllable. It's 100% controllable based on there's a set scale to how you improve the production value of any of your content.
Yeah.
The question is if you have the patience, and the resources to do it. Right. Whereas like you can't really force chemistry.
Yeah.
You can't really force content in the sense like you can't be like, this is good content.
No,
and just like good. Speak it into being. And there's people who are better at it than others. Like I like to think that I've got a track record now of saying like I'm pretty good at like putting together what would be a good podcasting team. What's that 3-4 host team look like? I think I'm pretty good at that, and I'm probably better than some people who are like, hey, we're friends, you like talking about this, and they go to Reddit and they find some other random person who they don't know if they have anybody else in common, and they come together and they do a show. Like that's probably about how half of the Overwatch shows started.
Yeah, I would guarantee that. That's probably how 3/4 of podcast started, really.
It is. And there's like nothing wrong with that from the sense of like, are you having fun? Are you learning? Are you making something? But also if you're like, I'm going to be the next Scott Johnson, or I'm going to be the next Tim the Tap Man.
Yeah.
There usually has to be a little bit more thought.
Yeah.
Into that, and you have
into
to
what you're doing.
I think want it a little bit more.
You got to be hungry. That's something I always come back to, is you got to be hungry for it. This is fun. It's a hobby. I have a slight appetite. I still have a full-time job and everything like that. So like obviously, and with a family, I can't just like if I was single, all in, let's go. Like if I had no responsibilities, if I was still just kind of working on the side a little bit, I would quit my job and go all in and figure it out, right? And you can learn the material. I just enjoy talking to people. I started streaming for a social outlet because I work in a warehouse by myself at work.
Sure.
And I like to talk to people, and so I was like, well, I just built my brand new PC. I am going to like I play video games anyway every night. I want to talk to people. Let's just figure this out. Let's see what happens, right? And like, you start caring a little bit more. You start putting, money into your microphones and your cameras and everything like that. When we move, I'll set up my studio. We're still in this crap place until June. Well, foreseeable future anyway.
I show the progression of my setups all the time because it did not start with like this.
Which is beautiful,
I didn't have a DSLR camera. Thank you. I spent a lot of money on it. Well, actually, the viewers and all that stuff, like everything that I have in here eventually was like funded by Patreon and subs and all that kind of stuff. And that was like, that was ultimately my goal. It wasn't to be huge. I didn't want to make it a full-time job. I wanted it to feed my tech addiction. That's like if it pays for my internet bill and like I can get a new keyboard or a new microphone every year, that's great. And it grew a little bit beyond that, but not that much beyond that.
Hey, but that's what you were looking for too. You're getting what you want out of what you're doing, and I mean, I'm sure. I think I can safely assume that you're having fun doing it as well, right?
Yeah, it's purely fun, and like that's the thing. So I started out very similar situation, full-time job, very serious girlfriend, no kids, but definitely serious enough to where it wasn't like I can go home, play video games 7 nights a week, and still have somebody to date at the end of that.
Exactly.
But it was also, and my wife is annoyingly supportive about all this, so she's like, it's like you're so annoying. Tell me you want to be by me.
Like, tell me to cancel stream tonight to hang out.
Tell me to stream and podcast and do what I love. And so she's annoyingly supportive, but like it started out as like I had this little setup and my little white Stormtrooper gaming PC, and I had a 15-inch MacBook Pro hooked in, and I had about 12 different wires because I would send audio to and from both computers to make sure my mic sounded good because the goxlr didn't exist at the time. And so, it started off there very part-time, and then it like gradually it kind of gradually grew. And honestly, the biggest mistake I think I ever made is I decided to go full-time in it right when we were growing it, and I left my job, and I almost like went bankrupt. I almost went, and I didn't understand the timing. I didn't understand my level of passion for it, and I didn't fully and accurately assess my strengths and weaknesses.
So
like I'm
no, go ahead, finish.
I was just gonna say, because I don't want to be a full-time streamer. I like streaming. I think it's kind of fun to stream. I like to do it from time to time and chat with people, but I don't want to be like, I'm a gaming entertainer. I don't want to do that. And I thought I did for a long time.
What about it pushed you away from it then? You obviously had the dream. You went through with the steps, right?
Yeah.
You yeeted, you went all in. We're doing this. Like what about it got to you, I guess?
It was so I went through kind of a similar thing, which is why I knew when to pivot away and probably didn't make some like completely devastating life decisions. So I actually went to college and studied music. I played bass guitar, and I'm like, I want to be a professional musician for the rest of my life. And I was a pretty good bass guitarist and played in studios. And I realized the more and more it got, it became a job, the less and less I enjoyed it.
Yep.
And so the same thing with streaming is like the more and more I felt obligated to turn that thing on and entertain people and it's, the best streamers treat it as a job, and they have it in them or just genuinely do enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
And I would probably say that a certain amount of viewers probably helps that a little bit. Stoke, that ego, if you want to call it. I don't think it's all ego for the big streamers, but it's very different to be like, yes, this is worthwhile, and I'm excited to go earn $10,000 today in donations than it is to say I'm excited to earn 1 Twitch Prime sub and 3 followers.
Yeah.
For my 15 to 20 person stream. Like it's a lot more difficult to have that conversation with yourself, and a lot more difficult to go, I want to stick through this in the hopes that I will eventually get to 5 Prime subs, and then the full-time goal is 100 Prime subs.
Yeah. Did you have a number in mind whenever you stopped, like at this point I'm going to quit and go full-time?
I didn't. It kind of came to 2 things where basically my income was getting close to what I was making at my full-time job. Don't forget about taxes, kids. You're a contractor. Remember that.
I learned that.
You got to pay those somewhere.
This was my first year having to file my 1099 as a Twitch streamer. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, just set away 24% or whatever.
Yep.
I think it is for me here. Just like set it aside. Don't even ever touch it.
Yep.
And then you have to wait 90 days to make sure that you don't get back charged on PayPal and just like weird stuff like that, right?
And then hope you did your math right.
Yeah, and then you're like, I hope I don't owe. Yeah. So it ended up getting kind of close to that, and my job was kind of like I was just really dragging through it, and I wanted to look for something different anyway. And it kind of went like, you know what? While I look for something new, I'm just gonna go full time. And so it just kind of happened to happen that way.
Yeah. So did it end up being more work than your full-time job was prior to that? That's a question I ask people like who do it full time, right? Because like you hear the story, they're like, man, I quit my job where I would work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, move on. Now I'm doing this full time, and I feel like I'm working 15, 16 hours a day, trying to make sure that I'm good enough to keep eating.
Yeah, so there's some, and work is so like subjective, and like, is managing your social media work, right? Like, is doing that work? Is this, do I classify this as work?
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, no, I don't look back and go, oh man, I worked really hard today. And I also think that some people were just really inefficient workers. It was the same thing with the podcast. I'm like, in order to get my podcast to this level, I need to take a week off of work to understand how to do it so that I could just hit a button, and I could play
Watch your
a
feet.
sounder or whatever, an intro song, whatever it is, like a clap or whatever, I end up, putting on, and I can do that live. That's going to add the production value so that I don't have to spend 3 hours editing this later. So it's about working smarter as well. So I would say I worked close to 40 hours a week. Probably a little bit more in the sense that I think I streamed probably 30 to 35.
Yeah.
And then, I podcasted for 3 to 5 and then probably had, 5 or so in editing. But it wasn't like this unhealthy mismanagement of my time and, I'm working 3 times as many hours just to make a quarter of what I was making before at my full-time job. Like, I don't. I think if people are doing that, I think that they're either fundamentally doing something wrong or they aren't at the size that they should be
when they
justify that work, right? Like that work, if you're having to put all that time in to get additional, whatever impressions we'll say, if you have to put that additional time to get that additional impressions, it just means that you're not getting enough organic additional impressions and you're having to compensate for that times 3 or whatever times 2 to make up for like the lack of size. And I just be like, the time's not right for you.
No, totally.
But everybody's story is different. There's definitely been people who are successful working 80 hours a week. It's just not a way that I could successfully work.
No, I'm pretty much down the same road as you are on that one. I don't think I could do that much. I don't want this to feel like a job or ever more than just what it is, which is a hobby of me talking to my dope little community of fellow dorks and weirdos, and we do our thing and we have fun, and I get to talk to awesome people like you and, the guests later that are, lined up down the road as well. So like, I don't know if I would ever quit working. I don't know if I'd ever do this full time. I don't want it to feel like I want to keep having fun with it, Like, I don't know. I've been thinking about this recently. Not that I'm going to quit or anything like that, because, like I said, I have a wife and kids, right? I can't afford to do that. I have to be, like, at 30, I think I have to start being a responsible adult, maybe. Sort of, kind of, So, I don't know. I'm always curious about that story, though, like, of people who did quit and go full-time. Because
I think the only wrong mindset is the why am I not full-time yet? Or, like, it's the people who are constantly, like, their goal is to be full-time. Just like partner. Like, if you're an affiliated streamer right now, what's the difference between affiliate and partner? You
at this point, nothing.
You get the same, like, you get more emotes, but people aren't subscribing to you for your emotes. I'm sorry to say, as cute as anybody's emotes are, they aren't good enough to get somebody to not subscribe to you as an affiliate versus partner, right? And so, like, people have this idea of, like, if only I got partner, I would, like, I would be able to, like, grow my stream and I'd finally be there. And, like, sure, you're in an elite class of, a couple, like, I think they're up to like 17 or 20,000 total partners in the world. You get access to, like, the partner party at TwitchCon and, like, Twitch parties and stuff like that. But outside of that, and being able to, like, maybe leverage it into some very low paying partnership and sponsorship deals, like, it's not going to change your life.
No, for sure. Especially now that they changed it so that way affiliates get ad revenue and all that crap too. Like, that used to be like the perk of partner, right? You get part of the kickback from ads, but now that's to affiliates now as well. Not that, like, once you start seeing, like, that was always the look, like, oh, we get all that ad money, and then you look and you're like, oh man, I made like $1 in like 60 days.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, and that's the thing, right? It's like, there's no affiliate on earth who's, like, making meaningful money. Like, we run ads on YouTube, and we run, so on the show on YouTube, we run a skippable ad every 20 minutes. So usually you get between 4 or 5 ads for an hour and a half show, which I think is totally fair for free content. And they're skippable, so they're less than 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And that brings in total, per month, with the average views we get, about $100 a month.
Yeah.
And, like, that's great. Like, that's my internet bill.
Yep.
That's my internet bill plus taxes, basically.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's cool. Yay. But you know, like on Twitch, it's even worse.
Oh,
the payouts are even worse, and so yeah, it's, you know, I stand by it. It's like if you think that some sort of title change is gonna make you successful on a platform, you're already in the wrong mindset. Not that you still can't succeed.
Yeah,
a lot of people succeed in the wrong mindset. It's annoying, but like, you know, I think my dad used to say, even a blind squirrel can find nuts.
Yeah, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? Same kind of
like,
thing.
Sometimes you get lucky. Like, I wasn't doing anything intentional to get raided by Tim the Tatman.
Yeah,
just happened.
I think a lot of that mentality too is based off how long you've been doing it for. I'm guilty of doing it when I first started streaming. I'm gonna make partner, and I'm gonna be the next XQC, and I'm just gonna scream at the microphone and all the money like this, right? But then, like, as you're doing it, and you start to like think about it and not burn out, and not, you know, and just start pondering of, you know, like setting actual realistic goals, like, and I think part of that's age as well. Like, I'm old now for this medium. So like, yeah,
won't it, like, there's you have to balance that drive and excitement with just like realism. Spend less time being excited and spend more time doing the work kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just like, you know, it's okay if you're passionate, and it's kind of the same thing that, you know, you should take with anything of like, if you're feeling like you want to go work out, go work out. Don't wait for a schedule to tell you to go work out. If you think you should only work out once a day, but for some reason today you feel like working out twice a day, work out twice a day.
Yeah.
Drive on that like excitement to do something, but at the same time, don't let it like take you to unhealthy limits.
Agreed.
And
no, totally.
A lot of people will let that, you know, like it's like the World of Warcraft addiction, right? It's just like, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna play and I'm gonna go to bed.
Every once in a while, man.
I'm gonna go to bed. You get that itch every once in a while, and you go
back
for 2 weeks.
I
just play the heck out of it.
I can't touch it. I can't even, like, if I have the itch, I can't open the Blizzard launcher, because I will resub and I will go back and I will sync.
Good time right now. It's fun.
No, hush, stop. You're not the first person to try to get me back to play either. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I won't do it.
All right, fair enough.
The wife won't let me do it anymore. She goes, you can either stream or you can play WoW. You can't do both.
Don't you like, hide behind your wife, sir?
I can't help it. No, she keeps me in check. It's just why she's perfect for me.
Sure.
9 years in what?
Hey,
3
congrats.
days? 4 days? Something like that.
Awesome.
4 days.
We're celebrating 3 years this December. So
woo, let's go. Look,
I know.
Like they always say, once you get past the first 5, it's cakewalk from there. I can promise you, it's not.
Honestly, it's been great so far. Honestly, like, I wish you could be like, well, there's been some times where it's just like, honestly, it hasn't.
No, we've gone through rough patches, but that's like me and her as a partnership, right? It's not we've gone through rough patches. It's like, you know, man, what are we gonna do? I just got laid off. Like, let's figure that. Like right now, right? Like, she's working from home, teaching both kids, and I still have to go out to work every day because, like we were talking about pre-show, I'm essential.
Right.
So,
right.
Like, she's here all day with both of them, and I have a 9th grader and a 1st grader. So, 7 and 14, I think.
Yes, we have been very fortunate in our first 3 years in that we haven't had unemployment to deal with. And I'm not saying we're fortunate to not have kids. That's not what I'm saying. But they aren't all little bundles of good smelling joy.
No.
Right? You know, so we have a dog, a nice 2-bedroom apartment in Silicon Valley that we enjoy very much. We've got like our offices, and we're just
What brought
chilling.
you to Silicon Valley then?
My wife works for a major tech company here.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So.
How's rent? You guys can't leave your house right now, can you?
No, not until May 3rd.
Yeah, I just realized that because they just extended that.
Yep. Yeah, they just extended it yesterday.
Every podcast we've had some COVID talk because it's ever changing, and I find it ever fascinating. Because Georgia, I'm in Georgia. We just went into state lockdown now, finally. So everybody's trying to grapple with that. And my parents live like 5 minutes up the road, and then her mom lives like 7 minutes up the road. So like we're like, can we even go see each other? I don't know. What do we do? I'm like, I'm gonna be at work, so.
Right. Yeah, we've been really fortunate in that both of our jobs have really flexible work from home policies and are like already set up to basically do that. And so we're just working from home, basically just sweatpants down below and a work shirt up top.
Perfect. That's the way it always should be. I will not take up all of your night, but when we first hopped on, you were talking about your time at goxlr and the clout gain of high profile streamers that you would help EQ their microphones.
So bear in mind there's a lot of things here. Number one, I can't divulge any like trade secrets of TC Helicon.
Nope.
And this is, I think, less for you, but more for like as a general thing that I just need to say publicly. I can't divulge any straight trade secrets. This is all like pretty public information. But I no longer work for them or represent them in any way. So, so I worked at TC Helicon Gaming. I was brought on as employee, like the first official gaming employee. And it was actually because I facilitated a podcasting panel at TwitchCon.
Really?
And my boss, Craig, came up to me with a piece of cardboard and said, I want to make an all-in-one audio device for streamers. Will you help me? And for 2 years, we collaborated on creating this piece of cardboard that turned into the goxlr.
That's super cool.
Will you come on and help me market it and manage the community and social media side of it? And so that turned into like my first gaming esports job. Again, like lightning strikes, right? Just luck. So
how'd you get real quick? How did you get the podcast panel at TwitchCon?
Submitted it.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh,
submitted it. Like, there's not a lot of podcasting panels out there. I had some larger podcasts. My buddy Jimmy, DJ Tyrant, had the idea for it and submitted it, and they accepted it, brought us on, and
the more you know.
That was it. Yeah, like honestly, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, kind of thing, and just like take a shot. I feel like you have something to say about podcasting. I did the year after that. I facilitated the podcasting panel at TwitchCon with Total Biscuit.
Really?
And so, so like it's just you kind of like
you're a Pandora's box that just keeps throwing things out there that
just weird things, man.
Like wait, what, for real? And you're like, yeah,
just crazy, just crazy things. Yeah. So. So they offered me the job. I said yes. And basically, we had a very limited marketing budget, but I had about 100 goxlrs that I could use to market it. And basically, my only plan was, well, I knew Trevor at this point, and I knew PJ, and I knew Tim, but like we weren't really close. It wasn't enough to be like, hey, Tim, will you beta test this piece of audio hardware in front of tens of thousands of viewers? And not tell them anything about it for free.
For free.
Like we're not that close.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Exactly.
But I'm like, I'll send it to Trevor and PJ. They were both smaller at the time, like 50 to 100 viewers, and we're really close, and they needed help with their audio, and so we did it, and we just kind of started, and thankfully the product ended up being really good. Yeah. So they really enjoyed using it. It was crazy for them to have the control that they did, and they still use it to this day, and they love it. As far as I still know. And
at least that's what they tell you, right?
My strategy was these guys play with enough big streamers, and there's enough cool toys on it that as I start, as they go onto a stream
and change their voice to this,
they the other streamers are gonna go, what are you doing to do that? How do you do that? And then they're like, oh, it's a goxlr, it's and then I'm like, if they ask about it, just tell them to come to me, and I probably send them one if they're big enough. And so we just kind of did that. We kept sending him until eventually, I think the total number by the time I left was 35 to 40 of the top 100 streamers on Twitch are using goxlr.
Damn.
So, but Tyler is in chat right now, and he can attest to this. Streamers don't know anything about audio, even if like goxlr makes it really easy. And the biggest thing is like EQing your voice and compressing and gating and de-essing.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big part of what I did, and this is, I think, largely before Tyler kind of came on and ended up being, it's funny he's here because he's like, we called the title MVP, but he really was like the first person to probably know more than us about our own product. And, but a big part of what I would do then is Tyler would kind of like help with technical support questions as like a community volunteer. And I would spend a lot of time just working with large streamers and helping them set up their goxlrs. And so about 25 to 30 of the top 100 streamers are all microphones that I've EQ'd and set up and like giving them walkthroughs on. So.
That's crazy, dude. Like, look, it like you didn't want to stream full time. You're helping out all these dudes who do, and that's like, I don't know. That to me would be more rewarding than actually just doing it yourself. Just to set these guys.
I mean, it
up
was really
for
great.
Success,
like,
right?
yeah, I mean, it was really great. I mean, everyone was really cool. I think I only ran into here's the crazy thing is I only ran into 2 or 3 streamers who weren't absolutely and completely amazing, if not at least just professional, but very like gracious and nice and welcoming and really appreciative. Like I said, like Nade Shot was like, here, let me send you a bunch of 100 Thieves stuff and come on down for the TwitchCon party and like, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, it was really great. It was a really great experience, and it was really great to be appreciated on that level. And that's something that I couldn't really get just by like being a streamer in my own right, unless I'm like streaming for hundreds of people, which again is not something that I necessarily wanted to do.
Yeah. Which is fair. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't say no, but at the same token, like, I'm cool. I'm easy. I'm chill.
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah, if Martin Scorsese calls me up and wants me to be the lead role in his next film, like, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna like seek after it kind of thing. Like,
I'm not gonna shove my weight down. I'm not gonna shove my way to that and then sacrifice like the enjoyment of what I'm doing here. Dude, man, you're literally the gift that keeps on giving. You have you just dropped things out of like I said, you just dropped things out of nowhere, and I'm like, wait, what? Holy crap! I want to dive into this, but like, hang on, we gotta finish what we were talking about before. Like, dude, you've been amazing, hands down.
Thank you.
So,
thank you for having me.
Where can people find you, man?
I'm everywhere at KickedTripod, so twitch.tv/KickedTripod, twitter.com/KickedTripod, and youtube.com/KickedTripod. Instagram is basically pictures of my Bernese Mountain Dog. And then,
isn't that most Instagrams? Just dogs.
That's, I mean, yeah.
At least to me, anyway,
and that's what it should be.
Exactly. Agreed.
Instagram. I don't know what the.
Oh wait, hello. Hang on. Idea.
Yeah.
Chat. Write that down. That's our second app idea. We were coming up with an app last night, but it's a terrible idea.
Work on the name.
We'll figure it out.
But yeah, it's So yeah, everywhere at KickedTripod, you can find me there. You can find Tactical Crouch is recorded there, but if you want to listen to it on a podcast outlet, you just search for Tactical Crouch, and it'll be brought up.
And I would highly recommend doing that if you were into Overwatch League at all, because that show is simply amazing. And I love it. I love it, which is why I wanted to ask you. So, dude, I super appreciate it. You'll probably see some questions from me later, just like asking for advice on stuff. So don't be surprised.
I have a rule. This is the podcaster's rule.
Oh no!
And you're going to be indoctrinated into it.
Yeah.
This is your like 5th episode.
Yep.
Right. And have you done any podcasts before?
Slightly, but not like anything crazy.
We'll just say it's your 5th.
I like it.
The rule is, and so I basically, when I started podcasting, I sent Pat Crane a bunch of messages, and he responded to every single one very graciously. Donated a lot of his time. Not like he didn't like sit down and direct me, but he at least directed me to resources and always gave me a response. And so I committed, like, well, Pat did that for me, so I will do that for anybody who asks me. But my only stipulation is that once you master it all, you have to do it for the people who ask you.
Of course. Always pass it down.
Easy.
Always pass down the knowledge, right?
It's the podcaster's code.
That should be everybody's code. But
we're a small little niche.
I will take it, and I will run with it, and I will carry that torch for you, brother.
All right. I love it.
Dude, you've been amazing. once again, super humbled. Thank you for your time, my dudes. This has been episode 5 of the Creator Sit Down. You can find it on YouTube by the same name up there. I'm bad with the outro stuff. I'm still working on this. Also on all podcast services, so go leave a comment. Those super help. I read every single one of them, and I will more than likely respond to you as well. Once again, thank you, KickedTripod. Everybody have a fantastic night. For those of you who are staying in the stream, we're playing Doom Eternal after this. Just FYI.
Hog.
Because that game's really good. We're trying to finish it. And so, almost done with it. Almost done with it, brother. So, yeah, we will be back here in about 10-15 minutes. And that is that, my dudes. And then I'll cut this stuff out. Dude, seriously, like, and the stream's still going, so they can see the big juice after this. But, like, fantastic, dude. I love talking to you.
Thank you, man.
I
appreciate
super
it.
like I said,
fun.
you answered me super humbled. I was like, oh my god, he took the time.
It's surprising to me that so many people have like said no and given you, because I know
to be
so many
fair,
people
I've
are
never
just
had
like,
a no. I just don't get answers, which is perfectly fine. Like I know going
fair
in.
enough.
Right?
Streamers are pretty bad at
A lot of
managing
people.
green nails.
Surprisingly, a lot of people are pretty bad at it. I'm bad at it, and I'm the one asking people, and I'll look down like 2 days later, and I'm like, oh shit, he answered me back. Fuck. Oh, hang on, I gotta answer back real quick.
Yeah, I know for sure too. If you ever wanted like Yiska or Joe to come on, I'm pretty sure I won't volunteer them. They might be too busy, but they love coming on and talking.
No,
too.
I would
So if you want.
I would love to. I might actually. I mean, we'll. Like I said, I might ask you further questions about like upgrading setups
Totally.
and figuring things out, but I don't know, that might happen. I may need the connect. I shouldn't do that. The connection.
Yeah, get there. Yeah.
Slide into those DMs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, their DMs are open, so they'll just
Oh, that makes it easy.
I'll just answer.
That's an easy slide then. That's an easy slide. I don't want to keep you all night, man. You're a busy dude, especially because you have all these trainings going on the rest of the week. So I will let you go from here. But once again, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Brennan.
And I will talk to you on the flip.
In the future.
Yay!
On the flip.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
See ya.
Have a good night.
You too.